Everything set up on your end?
We're getting there, yeah. If you
Okay,
start up, it'll be fine. Yeah,
cool.
Okay.
maybe like
Well,
20
yeah, well,
seconds,
welcome
something
everyone.
like that.
20 seconds it's going?
Probably, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Right. All right, shall we get started, everyone?
Yes.
Thank you so much for being here. This is really wonderful. We're, I see that now. Meeting is now streaming live on YouTube. Look at that.
We're famous.
If any of you have taken the M&A keyboard class, one of my keyboard videos somehow got like popular and it has like 1,000 and some odd views. So I've gotten some good monetization from that. You know, I'm making some bank. So anyway, welcome to our headphone. What are we calling this? Headphone? Jonathan, what are we calling this?
Series.
Headphone series. Yes. We were calling them listening parties, but he came up with a nicer title. This is our headphone series that Chuck and I are leading for you all. And briefly, what this is going to be about is, Chuck and I were thinking about kind of doing a session like to play music for you all, talk a little bit about it, and some things you might not have heard before. And you guys know us, right? Chuck and I, we're going to play you a lot of jazz. Okay, that's just this is what you're signed up for. Okay, there should be no surprises. Okay, but one thing we tried to spin it a little bit is to play you all some tracks of music that are musicians that really directly influenced both he and I, people we studied with, people who had like a kind of a big influence on just our musical development and who we became as musicians. So you're not going to probably know these people because they are, not super famous people. Some of them you might have heard of before, perhaps, but that was kind of our thinking. So yeah, you want to add anything, Chuck?
No, that's spot on.
Yeah. So like for me, I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area. So, you might know some of the people Chuck's going to talk about. His folks are more Boston based. But we just hope that, through being here and hearing this music that, you'll get some new stuff and you'll hear some new stuff and maybe you'll like it and seek it out. So.
All right.
Jonathan, would you mind putting that Google form link into the chat? It's Zoom is being annoying about allowing me to copy it for some weird reason. So you all need to, oh, you did that to me privately. Try hit everyone and then it will go. There you go. So Dr. Richter just sent out the Google form for you all to fill out. This will give you credit for being here. It'll, give you that thumbs up in the recital attendance credit category that you're all, I know, itching to check. So, okay, Chuck.
All right. So yeah, my formative influences are older than Garrett's formative influences. So I guess I get to go first. So we're going to start off with a recording. Let me find the window here. This is guitarist David Newsom, and I studied with him in high school. In high school, I played guitar and bass kind of equally. And then once I got to Berkeley, I did the smart thing and did play bass full time. And Dave was the first private teacher that I had who was like really committed to teaching. I don't know if you guys have the experience of having a private teacher who just like suddenly disappears after Thanksgiving or something like that. I ran into a bit of that. But yeah, Dave, and he really took my studies seriously and just a monster player who could do anything with a guitar. And he is playing a duet with a pianist named Mark Shalansky, who is not only, I guess, a formative influence, he was also one of my oldest friends and a former roommate. And I think, sometimes your teachers can tell you stuff and you should always listen to everything that your teachers say. But, working with your peers and kind of bouncing ideas off each other and stuff is super valuable, like incalculably valuable for me with some of the stuff that I worked on, and I'm still working on. And so here is, I got to share the screen. Here is Dave Newsom on guitar and Mark Shalansky on piano. And they're playing a tune called All Across the City by Jim Hall, who's probably one of the all-time most influential jazz guitarists.
That was great, Chuck. Thanks. All right, my turn. So I'm going to paste some details into the chat here. So what I'm going to play you guys first is a piece recording that the leader of the group is a guy named Michael Caine. He's a pianist. And it's a trio recording with him on piano, a guy named Ralph Alessi on trumpet, and Peter Epstein on tenor saxophone. So my connection to this group and these people is that Ralph Alessi was a teacher of mine. And interestingly enough, his dad was my teacher as well. I actually first was lucky enough to get to study with his dad, who was named Joe Alessi Sr. If that name is ringing a bell to anyone, Joe Alessi Jr. is a very famous trombone player. He's the principal trombonist with the New York Phil, probably one of the best trombone players in the world. So this is like a very brass family. You know, these guys know their brass. So anyway, I studied with his dad when his dad was in his 70s, and I went over to his house, and he always had shorts on, this funny hat. He was this old dude, but he was a great teacher. And every time that his son Ralph was in town, I would study with Ralph, and Ralph turned out to be like this incredible improviser, jazz player. And so it was Ralph had started teaching at Eastman School of Music, and so I sort of got interested in going to Eastman through Ralph, and so that's where I ended up doing my undergraduate degree and studied with Ralph for a few years there. So I kind of have a weird connection to a lot of these people here. So anyway, I want to play this track, which I just really loved. I've loved for a long time. It epitomizes for me what I love about jazz and improvised music, which is the way in which the musicians interact in just fundamental and amazing ways, fabulous ways. It's like the way they hear each other and spontaneously adjust to each other. There are just moments in this track where it's just like so exciting because of what they happen to do when they connect in just incredible ways. So the way it unfolds is you'll hear the piano play this kind of musical idea and repeats a bunch of times. Then you'll hear the trumpet and the tenor saxophone do it, just the two of them for a little bit. Then the piano enters and all three of them do it. And you'll just hear the same kind of basic material over and over again, but they just keep coming up with amazing things to do with it. So this is Top of the Dunes. Here it is. And there you have it.
Let me just get our next selection up. So moving the story along here, I studied with Dave Newsom in high school. I met Mark Shalansky, the piano player on that previous track, teaching in a summer program that Dave was supposed to teach in, but he got a better offer and he subbed it out to me after my freshman year of college. And in, I guess, my junior or senior year of college, of high school, whatever, when is it you guys tour colleges? I don't even remember anymore. But I actually toured UML when I was doing my applications and my visits. And had Berkeley not worked out, I was probably going to go to UML. I kid you not. Berkeley had rolling admissions, so I knew really early that I wasn't going to go anywhere else, which is for better and worse, whatever. But I do sometimes think, in a different lifetime, in a different timeline, perhaps I would have spent my undergrad years in Durgan myself. So I go to ULOL, I'm still playing guitar and tour the building and do all this stuff. And they like pull the guitarist or something. I don't remember why, but there was a bunch of guitarists, including me. And we go into a room, and I'm pretty sure it was room 204. They divide everybody up by instrument, and one of the guitar teachers, and I don't distinctly remember names, but we met with one of the guitar teachers, and he was not very tall, and he was kind of skinny, and he asked the guitarist, like, what are your goals? And I said, I just want to be able to play what I hear in my head. And I remember his reply. He was like stroking his chin, and he goes, "That's a very noble goal." And again, I can't say for sure, but that sure sounds like a John Wheatley response to that conversation. So I go to Berkeley. I start playing bass, and my bass teacher is this guy named Barry Smith. He was super involved with my development. I started out playing electric with him as my teacher. And I mean, I didn't know anything about anything, playing chain, nothing. And he was very patient and very nurturing. And, I would say one day, I'd come into a lesson, I'd be like, "Hey, what's up with Ornette Coleman?" And the next week he'd come back and he'd give me a cassette with "This Is Our Music" on one side and "The Shape of Jazz to Come" on the other, or something like that. It was just like always like that. He had licks written out for me. Took a real interest in my development. Along with Dave Newsom, he's somebody I owe a great debt to. So it turns out we can see Barry Smith, who I did study with, playing a quartet gig. Can you guys all see this? With John Wheatley, who I would have studied with. And we'll hear the introduction. This is a TV show John did a few years ago.
The John Wheatley Quartet, John on guitar, Arnie Krakowski on tenor, Barry Smith on bass, and Bob Kaufman on drums.
And they're playing Afternoon in Paris, which is one of my favorite heads. I just love playing this tune.
Do whatever you got to do to enjoy some great music with the John Wheatley Quartet.
Nice. Okay, we're going to take a hard left turn. So, one of my sort of most formative teachers is a guy named Matthew Goodhart, who's a pianist. And I encountered him through the most sort of unusual circumstances. He was the pianist at my family's church that we went to when I was a kid. And when I started to get into music, my parents were like, you should play with the church band. I was like, great. And it was actually really an amazing experience because I did it all through high school. And I always read concert pitch charts. So I got like amazingly good at reading as a B flat instrument, trumpet, concert pitch music. You can just give me anything in concert and I could read it as if it's my own. I can transpose it and with zero problems. And I think that's mainly because of playing at church. But Matthew was the pianist there. And it turns out that like, this gig he did was so far removed from what his music was. And I started taking lessons with him, studying piano, studying theory, studying history. And Matthew just had a big influence on kind of my development aesthetically, sort of what my artistically I kind of was inclined to like about music really came from Matthew. I was heavily influenced by him. And you would call this type of music sort of avant-garde improvisation. All right, so just to let you know what you're in for. All right, it's going to be a lot different from Wheatley, but I think in a lot of ways it has a lot of similarities. Right, the improvisational tradition that comes out of Black music goes in a lot of directions. And in fact, the person that Matthew plays with on this recording is a guy named Wadada Leo Smith, who was one of the founding members of a group called the AACM, the Association for the Advancement of Creative Music, that started in Chicago in the 1960s. And a lot of interesting groups came out of this. The most famous is the Art Ensemble of Chicago. You may have heard of that group. But these were a group of sort of experimental Black musicians who created this kind of interesting collective and sort of supported each other financially as well as artistically, and really created a really unique kind of musical scene that's very experimental. So let's give this a listen. This is called Conference. So this is just piano and trumpet. And the thing that I want you to listen particularly to, the thing I love about this recording that Matthew does in it is the way he controls the piano sounds. So he plays a lot in the tradition of someone like Cecil Taylor, who will, just sort of use the piano almost as like a percussion instrument. Will be just banging on the keys in interesting ways. But he gets this incredible sounds out of the instrument. It's like, I hope this comes across through Zoom, that you can hear the kind of really interesting piano timbres that he can create. So here we go. Jake's comment. Yep. You never can be sure of what's happening. So I hope you all, I enjoyed exposing you all to that. Whether you enjoyed it or not, that's up to you.
Cool. Let's see. Okay. So when I was in school, there were a fair number of groups around Boston. There was enough of a scene to support some medium to large sized ensembles that were a little more composition driven. And that was what my interest really was at the time. The main group that I checked out was called the Either Orchestra. Here, I'll type some of their stuff in the chat. They didn't have a track that was like short enough and representative enough to really make the cut for this. But another guy in that circle was a guy named Ken Schaffhorst, who is now the chair of jazz studies at NEC. And he led a big band that was kind of partway between straight ahead big band stuff and partway between the more orchestral type writing like Gil Evans did for Miles Davis. Like there will be French horns and oboes and stuff in Ken Schaffhorst's big band. And when I was in college, I used to go see them play at the Middle East. So it is long enough ago that the Middle East was considered a viable jazz venue, at least some nights of the week. And I did not know it then. It was only afterwards I found out that the trumpet player on those gigs was none other than our very own Walter Platt. So here we're going to have the Ken Schaffhorst Big Band. The tune is called Yes and No, and Walt gets the trumpet solo. Here we go, you guys. Whoops. Is that okay?
All right, so Chuck and I were just doing a little behind the scenes negotiations. I'm going to do one more track, and then he's going to do one after that, and then we'll call it a night. So we'll be done just a little after 9. So what I want to play for you for my final example is a track by a guy who actually is someone I went to high school with. And, you know, like a lot of things in a lot of times you end up having those slightly older musicians than you when you're coming up, and they become important influences on you, right? They are someone that you think is just incredible, and you can't even imagine achieving what they're doing. And this guy was that kind of person to me. So his name is Jamaica Brown. I'll put the information in the chat here. He's a drummer, and you know, a lot of the people I went to high school with that were even great musicians didn't go on to have great musical careers. But Jamaica did and has been, and is really been a remarkable musician. So this is from a recent album of his called Work Songs from 2016. This is an album he worked on with a guy named Chris Scholar, who's a guitarist and does production. Scholar has done a bunch of hip hop production. He's played on Jay-Z and all kinds of really, really amazing hip hop records. So he and Jamaica worked on this together. And the fascinating thing about this recording is what Jamaica did was he took recordings of work songs. So this is actually like music that was made by chain gangs back in like the 50s, like in Alabama. And it was recorded by this guy named Alan Lomax, who was a famous sort of ethnographer. He went around the country and recorded all this American folk music, particularly African-American folk music that had traditions going back into slavery. And so this is Jamaica's sort of reinterpretation of that, using that as inspiration for his own music. So this is called Be So Glad. So you'll hear the work song, the chain gang songs interspersed with lots of other things too. And I pasted into the chat there's a YouTube link as well. It's a really actually great music video they made of this too. I'm going to play the full version because it's got some nice stuff in it. So here it is, Be So Glad.
I'll be so glad when the sun goes down. When the sun goes down. I'll be so glad when the sun goes down. When the sun goes down. I ain't all that sleepy, but I wanna lie down. I ain't all that sleepy, but I wanna lie down. I wanna lie down, baby. I wanna lie down. I ain't all that sleepy, but I wanna lie down. Oh, what's got the matter, baby? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Chuck, take us home.
All right. So I am going to I'm going to play something by somebody who I didn't study with, I don't work with, and have never been roommates with. I think when I was a freshman at school, the guitarist Bill Frisell came and gave a duo concert with his guitar teacher from when he was in school. And I got really interested in his playing. And he made this album. It's a collective group. It's called Power Tools. And it's with Roland Shannon Jackson on drums and Melvin Gibbs on electric bass. And I think they're affiliated with Ornette Coleman or in that circle. And this was kind of the first free music that I really, really connected with. And they have this, they closed out that album. And I guess as we will close out this concert with this recording of Unchained Melody. And this has kind of changed my mind about the relative levels of sincerity and irony and kind of looking at music through a funhouse mirror. And this is, the album is great. I want to play something because I don't think it's on Spotify or iTunes or any place. I'm one of these days I'm going to sell my CD and retire. This is just one of my all-time favorite pieces of music ever. And like I said, it just really turned my brain around when I heard it. So here we go.
Whoa.
And with that, we bid you good night.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Any questions or comments or anything anyone want to say before we go?
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thanks for
Yeah, this is fun. Thanks for being here, everyone. In this strangest of times, we hope that like this allows us all to kind of share in the musical experience in a way that a performance is similar to, but that is hard to do these days. But I hope you are all trying to keep track of like the options of lots of musicians are doing live streams and making music happen in this kind of virtual format. So keep your eye out for people you like, because they're probably trying to do something and they might just ask for $5 or something to hop on a live stream. But it's a good way to support musicians that you like and to hear actual quote unquote live music. So thanks again.
All right.
Good question. Do you guys have a playlist like of all the music that you played tonight so that we can download it?
We should do that for sure.
I can't. Yes,
Chuck.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Chuck.
I'll if you guys want to stick around, I'll put it in the chat. What I did. I think some of Garrett's stuff is in there already.
Yeah, I put the basic info, but we don't have it in like a playlist yet. I wonder what would be the best way to do that anyway. Spotify or YouTube or something. The question is, could we get some of the stuff that you play, Chuck?
Yeah, so the first two things are only on YouTube, as far as I know. The other ones, the Ken Shafforst Big Band After Blue Power Tools album is called Strange Meeting. And this is one that I listened to a lot when I was in college and just like put it away. And I read an article about it right at the beginning of lockdown. And I was like, oh, I should check this out. I got it out and it absolutely totally holds up. It blew me away all over again. And I was also going to play, we were running out of time, but my friend Charlie Colhayes, his tune, The New Llama Walk, from, I think it's Research and Development is the name of the album. And the other bands that I mentioned were the Either Orchestra and Calculus of Pleasure and Half-Life of Desire and Across the Omniverse are the big ones for me from them. Oops. And also all of these Boston people that I played are still active. So when we can get out and do things again, look for them. They're all playing. Tell them Chuck sent you.
Yeah, and I was just going to put my list in
Here,
just a simple form. So if you want to just copy it out and you can try and find it, although some of it's going to be hard to find. I'm not sure how accessible Matthew's thing is, but actually, this is my list in a short form for you.
Yeah, hang on one second. I'll get the link to the other two. Here's the John Wheatley link. And here's the Shalansky Newsom link. I think that's all of it, you guys.
Cool. So unless there's anything else, any other questions, anyone?
All right.
We'll sign off.
Have a good night, you guys.